Metal Gear Solid 2 is a special game to me. Not only was it my first real introduction to the series, but the way I got into Metal Gear is an act of God. As a kid, I would work during the summer to earn money for my video games and school clothes. A friend of mine invited me to his birthday party and asked me to give him a gift that would have drained all of my money. I honestly wasn't going to do it, but I remembered that it's good to treat others like you want to be treated. So I did. I only had a few bucks left over, and I found a game for $2 in the used bin at GameStop. That game was Metal Gear Solid 2, and at first I was confused by its long-winded dialogue and references to events I had no knowledge of. However, I stuck with it, and by the end, I was hooked. Metal Gear Solid 2 affected me differently as a kid with no experience of Metal Gear Solid 1. But after finally beating Metal Gear Solid 1 recently, I decided to come back to Metal Gear Solid 2. And as weird as this may sound, I can say that Metal Gear Solid 2 is at its best if this were your first game in the franchise. With this game being my first introduction to Metal Gear, I wasn't aware of the RAIDEN controversy back then. Metal Gear Solid 2 was criticized by fans who were shocked to realize that the bulk of Metal Gear Solid 2 isn't with the series' traditional protagonist Solid Snake, but rather a new character, RAIDEN. And who could really blame them, as the demo that released with Zone of the Enders only had the tanker mission, which stars Solid Snake. This same tanker mission is the very first mission of the game, and the box art and title screen show off Solid Snake, so anyone thinking that you'll be anyone other than him wouldn't be out of their mind to think so. For hardcore Solid fans, I understood why they didn't like the switch, but for someone that didn't know the difference between a snake and an ocelot, it didn't matter to me. In fact, not knowing made the game better. After Snake exposes Metal Gear Raid, the Big Shell attack begins, where Snake, or rather Raiden, is sent to stop Dead Cell, a terrorist group, from destroying the Big Shell, and he also has to save the political hostages.
25, 37.
There also seems to be another intruder here other than Raiden who's taking out guards. Now, it's obvious that Raiden is less experienced than Snake. They sold this by Raiden not only seeming a little bit naive, but they actually reteach you mechanics that they already taught you during the tanker mission. Once you run into this weird vampire dude, you meet Lieutenant Junior Grade Iroquois Pliskin, who looks and sounds like Solid Snake.
Think you can shoot that thing?
I had no reason to question the colonel telling me that Snake died on that tanker. Plus, the leader of Dead Cell is calling himself Solid Snake, so for all I knew, it's just a coincidence that this guy looks and sounds this way. This is a great example of why I said that playing Metal Gear Solid 2 first is a different experience than playing Metal Gear Solid 1. People having a different form of reality based upon the information that they know is a critical theme of Metal Gear Solid 2. I lacked the knowledge of the games that came before it, which shaped my perception of Metal Gear Solid 2 differently than those that had it. From the very start of Raiden's mission, you would have known that all of this seems quite familiar if you know the events of Shadow Moses. I'm sure fans of the first game were just connecting so many dots as they were jumping to conclusions and theories based upon seeing familiar events take place again. But for me, I was more like the character Raiden. I was new to all of this and I was just along for the ride. Another thing that I wasn't familiar with was all the improvements that Kojima made to the gameplay because I never played Metal Gear Solid 1. He clearly wanted this game to not only be elite when it came to cinema, but also in its gameplay mechanics. The new moves and animations make this linear game feel way more complex than a lot of bigger games today. Holding up guards, hiding bodies, detailed bullet damage based upon what body part you hit or even whatever you shoot in the environment. And the list just goes on when it comes to the improvements made to Metal Gear Solid 2 when it comes to its gameplay. Now, my favorite improvement to the gameplay has to be the guards. Guards are more human-like. They have more personality, as some guards can be held up easily while others need a little bit more motivation.
Shoot me! If you're going to do it, then do it. Who is that?
Some are sleeping on the job, and you might even find some just goofing off. They are more dangerous than the first game, as they can counter physical attacks. I was surprised when a guard just ducked my grab. Call in more guards, and these guys will call in heavily armed guards with shotguns that would just tear you to shreds. They frequently check in on each other, so even if you quietly take out all the guards, if no one answers the radio, they'll send a search party to look for you. And the searches are so great. When you get a high alert and they search for you, they use actual real military tactics, which you can even watch how they search for you in real time if you pay attention to the picture-in-picture in the radar. To go with the new advanced guards, Snake and Raiden also needed some new moves as well. Rolling, hanging, first-person aiming, and choking out guards are just a few of the new mechanics added. Unfortunately, depending on the version you're playing, the controls can be a bit awkward than they were originally on the PlayStation 2. The Master Collection is based off the HD version, which is not made with the PS2's original touch-sensitive button controls, which is understandable because no modern-day controller has touch-sensitive button controls like the PS2 had. So it makes sense that they had to change some things around, but damn, does it mess with my muscle memory and make some actions look clunky. Metal Gear Solid 2 also brought along non-lethal weapons for those that like to kill only when necessary. They also added a new stamina bar for each boss, giving you the option to beat them without actually killing them. Now that I've officially beaten Metal Gear Solid 1, I can tell you that everything when it comes to gameplay has been greatly improved. But the cool thing about Metal Gear Solid 1 is this. It was such a great foundation that even though Metal Gear Solid 2 is technically better, I don't think that Metal Gear Solid 1 feels obsolete or outdated. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles as 2 did. Going from the tanker mission to the big shell isn't just weird due to the character swap or the vampire attacks. There's just this eerie feeling about everything going on the big shell. Raiden isn't too fond of his girlfriend Rose being part of the mission. Always thought it was weird how Raiden almost died from the node, and they should really come up with another way to design this function, because if you have to be shocked in order to hack into the node, that's insane. The Colonel actually speaks very dry to Raiden, almost like he lacks emotions, and sometimes he can even sound robotic.
When we need to reach you, contact you, the codec will beep.
Raiden, look at that wire fence. You may be able to crawl through it. Crouch down using the crawl button, then push the left stick in the direction you want to move.
The first few hours of the big shell is also a record scratch, as it's basically hide and seek with bombs. I say that because the tanker mission ended with a bang. It's strange to go from this to this. Finding the bombs is fun, however, as each bomb location has you using the new features like first-person shooting, opening and closing doors, and climbing and hanging in order to find them. I actually forgot that you have to push the analog stick forward to fire the coolant, and I was losing my mind trying to figure out which button to press because I just forgot this is how this mechanic works. There are personal conversations that you can have with Rose after each save. You'll talk about how you met, the importance of the next day as Rose keeps asking about it, but you gotta admit, this all seems kinda out of place in a high-stakes mission. If you play MGS1, Stillman, the bomb specialist, is voiced by the same guy that voiced Deep Throat, aka Gray Fox, and the DARPA chief. Both characters died during Shadow Moses. Or did they, as the ninja seems to be here. Now, of course, I missed all of this back when I first played it. And as a newcomer, I was more focused on Stillman warning me that Pliskin isn't who he says he is. Fat Man and his bombs are dealt with, but at the cost of Stillman's life. Deep Throat, or Mr. X, has revealed himself, and is helping us out unlike the first game. Again, I was like Raiden my first time around, just following along with what was in front of me instead of questioning things. People who beat Metal Gear Solid 1 would have known that Gray Fox died, so this can't be the real one. But at the same time, Liquid is back via his arm being grafted onto Ocelot, so is it really out of the realm of possibility that Gray Fox somehow survived this stomp by Metal Gear? What I'm trying to point out to you is that no matter which perspective you're coming from, whether it be you play Metal Gear Solid 1 or this is your first Metal Gear game, you're both going to be trying to connect dots and figure things out. It's just from different perspectives. Now, it's no reason to beat around the bush. All the events of the Big Shell incident, in one way or the other, is similar to the events that happened during Shadow Moses. The Colonel leading you on and leaving out information, people dying in mysterious ways, the ninja teaming up with an IT specialist, even some of the fights and obstacles are recreation of past events. I didn't know that Solidus is mentioned at the end of MGS1 because, like I said multiple times by now, I hadn't played at the time. Or that he looks a lot like Big Boss once he loses his eye. MGS1 talked a lot about events repeating themselves, free will, genes, and passing on legacy. MGS2 pushes the same message and questions, but in an unorthodox way. I started my review off mentioning that there are two types of Metal Gear Solid 2 players, those that started with 1 and those that began with 2. But just like how Solidus was hidden from us, there's actually a third brother or way to play Metal Gear Solid 2. If you play both 1 and 2, then you replay 2 again, you will see the genius of Metal Gear Solid 2 3 different ways, but I think you will only see it 3 different ways if you started with Metal Gear Solid 2 first. Metal Gear Solid 2 asks you to enter a name that Raiden, not Snake, carries. You would think that means we are Raiden, but that's not completely true. Raiden has his own background and relationships, making him his own person. But if 2 is your first game, you and Raiden are both learning about the events happening in real time. The big reveal that all of this is a simulation to mimic the events of Shadow Moses won't hit the same if you've never played Metal Gear Solid 1. But if you did play Metal Gear Solid 1, you also won't be able to experience the feeling of confusion both you and Raiden are going through. What is real and what is fake? In the beginning of the game, you will see Snake with a headband and a stealth suit. He and Otacon reference Naomi and Mei Ling, meaning the events of Shadow Moses, the Marrow ending to be specific, are real. Near the end of MGS2, you meet up with Snake again, and he gives you a sword and mentions he has infinite ammo. This is a reference to the infinite ammo bandana you get after beating Metal Gear Solid 1. But it made me question if it was actually the real Snake or he was some type of digital version of himself. The game spoke a lot about VR and using video games to train soldiers. Everything was a simulation, and Campbell telling me to turn off my game system only made my paranoia grow.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
I remember as a kid turning off my PlayStation 2 when he began to call me with weird speeches, and the fake death scene made me think the game was breaking or something. For me, this was my Psycho Mantis moment, and for what they did in MGS1, that was cool, but this makes that look like child's play. Everything after Emma's death was an enjoyable conundrum. MGS2 came out 2001, which was the perfect time for it to release. The internet was still in its infancy, and you could find information, whether it be true or not, everywhere. Now, this was before the internet had fact-checking AI and regulations. And honestly, that stuff is still relatively new, and still now you can find stuff, it's just a lot harder. I was deep into conspiracy theories at the time, so a game talking about a secret group known as the Patriots that control the world are in fear of the internet due to anyone being able to say what they want and it lasts forever spoke to me, and it freaked me out at the same time. MGS1 was about the negative and positive effects of the creation of nuclear bombs, while MGS2 spoke about the negative and positive effects of computers and the internet. Both nukes and computers were created during World War II. And although nuclear deterrence was an obvious problem anyone could have seen after the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what they didn't pay attention to was the lack of control over the data flow on the internet. MGS2 called it years ago that eventually the powers that be would try to censor information that they didn't deem to be good, but in the real world, it's a little too late for that. MGS2 speaks about the understanding of what is the truth and what is the lie, and whether or not either is as it seems. Ocelot thought the S3 program was designed to create any soldier into Solid Snake under the right conditions, which explains why everything resembles Shadow Moses. But it was actually a test to mold people as the Patriots see fit, and then change whatever information they needed to about any given event. The reason why this works so well is because clearly you can see that Raiden eventually becomes like Snake, but if that's not the true intention of the S3 plan, both seem plausible, but only one is the truth. But which one is it? You'll never know. No different than today, we have quote unquote AI, or rather, it's just really people claiming to be AI. Let me just fill you in on that. It's not really AI. Controlling what's a fact or not on the internet. Removing things from the internet is damn near impossible, as someone is bound to have saved it somewhere and can just re-upload at any given time. But burying the information over a sea of other information is a lot easier to do. Ever try looking for a funny video that you can vividly remember? Well, did that video actually exist? Or is it simply just hard to find because there's so many other videos with similar names that appear before it? It could be as simple as that, or it could be that someone deliberately is trying to hide it. Remember those conspiracy theory videos I told you about I was into? That would pop right up on YouTube, but now I have to do some digging to find them. And that's not because it's an influx of so many new videos on the subject, it's because someone said it's enough of these videos and made sure that the next generation couldn't easily find them. You could say it's like the modern day version of book burning. I was riding, a pawn along for the ride with no other reason to be here other than for the enjoyment of the game. If you started with MGS1, you were Snake, a person with ideals and a reason to be here. You just wanted to see what the next chapter was in the book that you helped write. Now that I played MGS1, played MGS2, and now I have played MGS2 again with both games in mind, I became something else. Are the Patriots entirely wrong? I was completely against them before, but too much information is uploaded to the internet. And sure, we could leave it to the masses to determine the truth from the lie, but unfortunately, most people aren't that bright. Today, we have people who are so hyper emotional, they just make rash decisions based upon how they feel, without a thought. And they've created this term that I hate, my truth. My truth is just a fancy way of saying this is my opinion, but an opinion isn't truth. It's more of a feeling. It's not something that's factual. In the gaming community, I hate when people say my objective opinion or a game is objectively good or bad. To be objective is to be factual only. So you can see how an objective opinion makes no sense unless you like the opinion. I bring that up to say many of us are actually like the Patriots, ignoring the truth for the favored lie, or lying to cover up a truth we rather other people don't know. Younger me hated the Patriots and I still don't like them now, but it was from a place of ignorance, because the truth of the matter is everyone does this. Everyone would rather something they prefer to be the truth than rather the truth itself, and everyone's hiding something. We don't need some spooky AI or 12 members of a secret society to do this when we ultimately are doing it already. Raiden was told multiple times that he was here to play a role of both a test subject for the S3 plan and to mirror the battle of father and son, as Solidus was his father figure as Big Boss was to Solid Snake. Another example of the concept of reincarnation that the Japanese and other cultures infuse into their media. In MGS1, we saw Snake evolve from a killer to someone that was actually fighting for something that he believed in. Now, this is what I love about Metal Gear. Let's look at Raiden. Raiden went from at least fighting for the mission that he was given to realizing that he's just a killer.
Then what is it?
I'm a killer.
But
I see men hit, I see them die in agony, and I don't feel a thing for them.
don't think things like that, Jack.
I'm a born and bred killer. Nothing like Snake. He fights for something he believes in.
So do you. You're doing your duty.
No, I'm not. Somewhere deep inside, I'm enjoying this game.
So in the end, what Liquid said in Metal Gear Solid 1 came true. We came back as Raiden to eventually become Snake, who we already were in a past life. It all makes perfect sense. Snake was a killer, but then he became a hero. Raiden went in trying to be a hero, but realizing that he just enjoys killing. Or did I just make all that up by taking pre-existing information and your expectations from Kojima's confusing writing at times and created a plausible connection where there may not be any at all? That's what Metal Gear Solid 2 is. It's whatever you want it to be. A psychological nightmare that will have you paranoid for days if you let it. Unless you have a strong foundation of self. Snake tells Raiden to have faith. I started this review off by telling you a story about how I found MGS2 in the first place. Following my faith in God, he teaches us to love each other as we do ourselves. I know that if it was my birthday and I asked for a birthday present, I would have liked to receive one. So I did the same for my friend, even though it left me with very little money. But in hindsight, I actually gained way more than I could have imagined from doing that. Not only did I have a great time with MGS2 and the games that came after it, but by following my faith, I understood the power of being generous, and that gift served as a bond between me and my friend for years. Some people will say that faith is made up, but the funny thing is that we all practice it. It's about what you put your faith in. People put their faith in money, control, and power. For me, it's God. Kojima questioned our reason for living in MGS1, but in MGS2, it's about what we have faith in. Just like before, he doesn't answer the question for us, because just like Snake says, it's up to you to choose. Free will is something the Patriots don't believe in. Neither do actual people in the real world. They believe in controlling you while they get to run free. Kojima isn't trying to control the answer, he just likes asking the questions. He just does them in the form of a video game. Snake and his brothers can't pass on their genes as they lack the ability to reproduce. Some of us won't have children either, but we can pass down our knowledge, culture, and principles, which are just as, if not more important than genes themselves. Emma wasn't related to Otacon by blood, but all the same, she fell into the Emmerich curse of creating dangerous weapons. Jack, or rather Raiden, wasn't Solidus' biological son, but he trained him to be a killer, and he still retains those lessons to this day. This is why what information we consume and how we process it is so important, and why free will can be a beautiful but scary thing. We can't control others, but we can inspire. Even people who are biologically related may look similar, but can have polar opposite ideals and beliefs. After all these years, MGS2 still has the ability to make me question myself. The difference is I went from being Raiden to Solid Snake. I have my faith, and there's nothing that can break my sense of self or reality. Not because it's not challenged, but because even after that, it still holds true. It's not for me to tell you what to believe in, as that's your choice, but it's important that you believe in something or you'll fall for anything. In the end, Raiden carries some doll tags that reveal the name that you inserted. The name can be anything, but rather you put Raiden's name or one of your own, Raiden rejects them and finally takes control over his own life. We the player controlled him, so did the Patriots, but what's left, or what's real, was the experience. The game we played isn't real either, but the feelings we got from it were. He meets Rose and he finally answers her question. What day is it? It's April 30th, the day they met. I never knew this until now, but that actually has a double meaning, as the old him met her on this day 2 years ago, but she was a spy playing a character. Now the new Jack and the real Rose also met on this same day. Who you are today isn't necessarily going to be you tomorrow. The people who think that they can control others are foolish. God gave us free will, even to the point of doing things he doesn't like. He also gave us the ability to change. MGS2 may be remembered for its Raiden switcheroo, memes, and fun gameplay. For me, however, it's a reminder of the time I practiced a teaching of my God, and by making this video, I'm passing on my story with it. This is what MGS2 meant to me. What did it mean to you?
Find something to believe in and find it for yourself. And when you do, pass it on to the future.
Believe in what?
That's your problem. Come on.